In the kingdom of Amuk, a law was as old as time itself. If a woman was caught committing adultery or was seen as too promiscuous, she would be declared unfit to be married and branded a whore. Her punishment: she would be brought before the entire village at the open market square and officially married to a dog, symbolizing that no one in the kingdom would ever associate with or marry her again. The kingdom of Amuk was a prosperous place, filled with lush green fields, bustling markets, and a strong sense of tradition. The people took pride in their customs and beliefs, especially when it came to the sanctity of marriage. Nneka was a young woman of exceptional beauty and charm, living in Amuk. Her dark, expressive eyes and radiant smile made her the center of attention wherever she went. But Nneka had a secret, one that would soon lead her down a path of heartbreak and shame. Nneka was married to a kind and hardworking man named Obinna. Though their marriage was arranged, Obinna had grown to love Nneka deeply, treating her with care and respect. However, Nneka's heart longed for more than what her husband could provide. She often found herself drawn to the attention of other men, enjoying the thrill of their compliments and gifts. One day, while at the river fetching water, Nneka met a wealthy trader named Chima. Chima was handsome, with a smooth voice and a confident demeanor that made Nneka's heart race. They began to meet in secret, and soon, their affair became the talk of the village, though Nneka was blissfully unaware. Rumors spread quickly in Amuk, and it wasn't long before Obinna heard whispers of his wife's infidelity. He was heartbroken, but he loved Nneka too much to confront her directly. Instead, he hoped the rumors would die down and that Nneka would come to her senses. But the village elders were not so forgiving. They called a meeting and decided that Nneka's actions were a disgrace to their customs and a bad example for other women. The decision was made: Nneka would be brought before the villagers and married to a dog, marking her as untouchable and shaming her family. The day of the judgment arrived, and the entire village gathered at the market square. Nneka was brought forward, her hands bound and tears streaming down her face. She looked around, searching for someone to help her, but all she saw were the stunned faces of the villagers. Obinna stood among them, his heart torn between love and duty. A large, mangy dog was brought to the square, its teeth bared and growling. The village priest, dressed in ceremonial robes, began the ritual. As the words were spoken, Nneka's fate was sealed. She was now married to the dog, a symbol of her disgrace and a warning to others. The villagers watched in silence as Nneka was led away, the dog by her side. Her once bright future was now overshadowed by shame and isolation. No one would speak to her, no one would help her. She was truly alone. Obinna, though heartbroken, could not bear to see Nneka suffer. He tried to speak to her, to offer some comfort, but Nneka pushed him away, unable to face the man she had betrayed. The pain in her heart was too great, and the weight of her shame too heavy to bear. Days turned into weeks, and Nneka's life became a daily struggle. The villagers ignored her, the children taunted her, and the elders shunned her. The dog, once a symbol of her punishment, became her only companion. Nneka realized the gravity of her actions and the price she had paid for her desires. One evening, Nneka went to the river, the place where she had first met Chima. She stood at the water's edge, looking at her reflection. The woman who stared back was not the same as before. She was older, sadder, and filled with regret. As she stood there, lost in thought, Chima appeared. He had heard of her fate and had come to see her one last time. But instead of offering comfort, Chima laughed at her misery, mocking her for believing he could ever care for someone like her. Nneka's heart broke all over again, and she realized that she had been nothing more than a plaything to him. With tears in her eyes, Nneka turned and walked away, leaving Chima behind. She knew now that she had to face her punishment and live with the consequences of her actions. Back in the village, Nneka tried to find a way to redeem herself. She began to help the elderly, care for the sick, and offer her services to anyone in need. Slowly, the villagers began to see a change in her. She was no longer the carefree, reckless woman they had once known. She had become humble, kind, and selfless. But no matter how much good she did, the stigma of her past remained. The dog was still by her side, a constant reminder of her shame. One day, a terrible illness swept through the village. Many fell sick, including the elders and the children. The healer, an old woman named Adama, was overwhelmed and unable to care for everyone. Nneka saw this as an opportunity to prove herself. She went to Adama and offered to help. Though hesitant at first, Adama accepted Nneka's offer. Together, they worked tirelessly, day and night, caring for the sick and bringing comfort to the dying. Nneka's hands were worn and her body weak, but she never gave up. As the days passed, more and more people began to recover, thanks to Nneka's efforts. The villagers were amazed at her dedication and began to see her in a new light. The dog that had once symbolized her shame now followed her as a loyal companion, reflecting the change in Nneka's heart. Finally, the illness subsided and the village was saved. The elders called a meeting and decided that Nneka had redeemed herself. Though she would always bear the mark of her past, she was no longer shunned. Nneka was welcomed back into the village, not as the woman who had been married to a dog, but as a hero who had saved her people. The dog, once a symbol of her disgrace, was now a symbol of her strength and resilience. Obina, who had never stopped loving Nneka, came to her and asked for her forgiveness. With tears in her eyes, Nneka embraced him, knowing that they could finally begin to heal the wounds of the past. And so, Nneka's story became a legend in the kingdom of Amyuk. A tale of redemption, forgiveness, then the power of love. The people of Amyuk would never forget the woman who had been married to a dog, but they would also never forget the woman who had saved them all. Nneka lived the rest of her life in peace, always remembering the lessons she had learned and the price she had paid for her mistakes. And as for the dog, it remained by her side until the very end, a faithful companion who had been with her through it all.
Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe.